entire situation was escalated by ICE. They caused the confrontation. Homeland came and, caused this chaos that we see. It was a very tense situation, but it could have been, it could have easily not happened. They had every opportunity to not allow this to happen. It was very unnecessary.
Yes, says the congresswoman who incited a riot, violently assaulted federal police officers, is now going to Alcatraz for the rest of her life. Yeah, it's always the other guy. She shows up and attacks you and then blames you for it. That is a mental illness, isn't it? She could be criminally insane. And we were just talking to one of our great listeners, to Greg, who said, hey, don't forget that this LaMonica, she's the one that was, when was it, Michael, that she's screaming about war? In February of this year. And as a Democrat member of Congress, she was ranting about how everybody has to do everything that they demand. They've got a gun to your head, and if you don't do what they want, then this means war, keeping in mind the violence of the Democrat Party shooting Donald Trump, shooting Steve Scalise, rioting from coast to coast, burning cities, billions of dollars, thousands of police injured. And here comes the Democrat member of Congress, who is the hero of the story today, certainly at CNN. Her name is LaMonica McIver.
We will fight back.
Fight back. Fight back.
And as I close out, because I know we've been out here for a long time, and damn it, shut down the Senate.
And listen to the violent mob of criminals. We're at war.
Anytime a person can pay $250 million into a campaign and they be given full access to the Department of Treasury of the United States of America, we are at war.
We're at war. We're at war. The violent mob, where do they get these mental cases, these mobs of mentally ill people that scream at the top of their lungs like it's Scream at the Sky Day? Every day, Scream at the Sky Day for them. Isn't that amazing? And that's what Greg pointed out. And thank you, Greg, for that, because we had completely lost that in the battlefield that is the Democrat Party's war against civilization. She is the third world. And, when you get maybe the world's most brilliant man, Elon Musk, to volunteer for free to bring in some of the smartest people in the world to look at government efficiency or the lack thereof. And you say, well, where's the money going? You might go to the Treasury Department. So they brought in these people who are CEOs to go look at where the money's going. And she is declaring war, which the Democrat Party did in, 1861 through 1865. Then they assassinated Abraham Lincoln, the first Republican president ever. Isn't that amazing? And it's war. And he didn't, he's not like, and remember, he was very funny because the Democrats saying, what are you doing going to the Treasury Department? Well, there are like thousands of employees at the Treasury Department who are in there every day. Do you know who they all are? Do you keeping close tabs on all the thousands of Treasury Department employees? You lunatic, you mental dwarf, you extraordinary dimwit. She's an extraordinary dimwit. Truly amazing stuff. And they got in there. And remember that Elon Musk said, because they accused him of, he's in there, he's stealing our Social Security money. Because that makes a lot of sense. And he had a funny response. He said, I'm going into the Treasury Department. I'm stealing your Social. He's worth, what is he worth? $600 billion, $400 billion, whatever it is. It's more money than anybody could spend in an entire lifetime. And he's kind of a funny guy, droll, if you will. And he's, you're stealing our Social Security. And he laughed and scoffed.
I don't think you care about money, do you?
I mean, listen, like, if I steal some Social Security, I can finally buy nice things.
Yeah.
I can finally buy nice things. These people are really mentally ill. And this congresswoman is violent and mentally ill. She's very unwell. Man. And Jake Tapper, he's at it again too, isn't he? Got a little Jake Tapper. But I want to get some other things in, and I'll swing back. Or if I were Jen Psaki, I'd circle back to And President Trump on the Hill today urging Republicans to, vote for Republican bills, which doesn't always happen. But the Democrats, they always goose step in unison like Munich in 33. Aren't they amazing?
Of course you realize this means war.
Of course. Of course you do. Our Democrat Party. They are truly something. They should be disbanded. I honestly think that it's past time for the Democrat Party it should be outlawed. We should ban it. That'd get him going. Then what would LaMonica do? And what was we've renamed the Jake Tapper book, right? The new title is Sorry. But the Free Beacon, the Washington Free Beacon, has a great story on Jake Tapper and his big book that getting all this promotion from the Wall Street Journal and from news media Jake Tapper's book. Oh, he's pointing out that the news media failed to report the truth for 5 years. For the 4 years of Joe Biden, and then the year on the lead up to the election, and then the election was stolen by the Democrats and their allies, their agents, like Jake Tapper at CNN, a former Democrat Capitol Hill staffer. But the Washington Free Beacon with a story today, The Tapper Dossier. I like it. That's kind of fun. : They love their colons. How the CNN quote-unquote journalist covered up the Biden cover-up before writing a best-selling book about it. And that's absolutely true. The famously thin-skinned news star has hired a top PR guru to help him fend off allegations that he's profiting from hypocrisy. Unfortunately for Jake, there are receipts. And they've got Jake Tapper on television, and it's wonderful. The Washington Free Beacon is great. Andrew Stiles on the story. CNN host Jake Tapper has been under fire since announcing he was writing a book about President Joe Biden's cognitive decline and the extensive cover-up to convince American voters that they were too dumb to see what was happening with their own two eyes. Many have pointed out that Tapper, his network, and the mainstream media in general were active participants in the scandal. And it is a giant scandal, a giant cover-up by the broader corrupt news media, including Jake Tapper, who is now going to profit very handsomely, I think, off this book, which is another scam, just another fraud perpetrated by the corrupt news media. They neglected to report on Biden's decline, allowed themselves to be cowed into submission by White House aides, and attacked anyone who suggested the president wasn't fit to serve, which he was not. Original Sin, President Biden's decline, its cover-up, and his disastrous choice to run again. That's the name of the book. It's much too long. Really, it should just be called Sorry. Or We Lie All the Time, Get Used to It. That should be the title of the book. Isn't that amazing? So the book finally came out on Tuesday, further inflaming critics who are disgusted by what they see as Tapper's attempt to profit by, quote-unquote, exposing an obvious reality after the fact, despite helping to conceal that reality when it mattered most. Tapper, renowned in political circles for his aggressively defensive response to criticism, hired Riza Heller, a crisis communications expert, to assist with the book rollout and teach the CNN host how to be nicer to critics. She has advised a slew of shady characters, including Zoom masturbator Jeffrey Toobin, also known as Jeffrey Tubout, and I'll have to clean that up, the penis pic peddler Anthony Weiner. So this woman has been hired to help Jeffrey Toobin and Anthony Weiner. They both have problems with their genitalia, don't they? And former CNN boss Jeff Zucker, the office romance maestro, who gave Jake his seven-figure contract and turned him into an anti-Trump avenger. Now, it's all part of the Democrat parties, and they use the corporate money to pay each other millions and millions of dollars. as long as they're doing the work of the Democrat Party. Isn't it amazing? And I got to say, going back and forth with my friend Tim on this morning, and the truth is, of course, that it was Tapper who helped to conceal the reality when it mattered, and he should interview himself for his own book. In August of 2020, Jake Tapper dismissed Republican concerns about Biden's sharpness as unfair, and he said, frankly, hypocritical. That's what Jake Tapper said when pointing out Joe Biden's decline. 2 months later, he cut off Laura Trump mid-interview for suggesting Biden exhibited cognitive decline. That's the term that Laura Trump used, cognitive decline. Jake Tapper cut her off immediately, accusing her of mocking his stutter. I remember this one. We used this one. You remember this? Isn't that great? And saying that she had no standing to make such claims. So there's Jake Tapper doing the hard work, the seven-figure work of the Democrat Party. And the great people at the Free Beacon put together a nice montage, video montage of all this Jake Tapper misinformation, disinformation, doing the work of the political party, the Democrat Party. Jake Tapper later implied that Republicans raising the issue were parroting Russian disinformation, even after special counsel Robert Hur's February 2024 report describing Biden as an elderly man with a poor memory. Jake Tapper insisted the president was not the way he is caricatured on Fox News. And then Jake Tapper famously, thin-skinned, TV news people, as they all are, hires this top PR guru to help him fend off allegations that he's profiting from his own hypocrisy. Just amazing stuff. And this, you have the Free Beacon, because the Free Beacon posted a bunch of this stuff, and the Free Beacon doing the Lord's work, unlike the New York Times and the Washington Post.
Last December, when he was promoting his book, he said, quote, "I am a gaffe machine, but my God, what a wonderful thing compared to a guy who can't tell the truth," comparing himself to President Trump. And there is this overlay of, well, Joe Biden said this, but you know what he meant. Look at what President Trump says, which is horrific and in some cases racist, or at least racially tinged. I mean, he seemed to be suggesting that Joe Biden wasn't all there,
it's at least
and had
racial.
Forgotten something he
seemed
had said.
to be implying
Given all the attacks
he's not
coming
all
from
there.
the Trump campaign, alleging all sorts of things about Biden's
We're
mental
gonna
acuity,
post
his
this.
capability, fair or not.
We're going to post this
frankly,
for you on
hypocritical
social
or not.
media. We've got, it's 4 minutes long, and it's Jake Tapper, the gigantic Whopper, or a Big Mac or a Happy Meal of a hypocrite and a fraud and a Democrat frontman and former Democrat Capitol Hill staffer, a Monica Lewinsky dater, and a big hero of journalism at ABC Fake News and at CNN. And now his book is out where he's exposing the truth when he was actively engaged in the cover-up all along. Now, yeah, we'll get this to Kevin Tober, and Kevin can post it on our social media platform so you can have the article and the video that the good people at the Free Beacon put together, because it's wonderful stuff. We like the truth here. Democrats have to lie about everything because, once you start lying, my mother taught me this when I was a small child. You tell a lie, then a year later, when it comes up again, what are you going to remember the lie and tell it all over again? And the news media is perfectly comfortable with that. They didn't have mothers. Their mothers were men. Speaking of which, I say we heard this is just an initial report. We're still looking into this. But I think Kevin reported this to us. It looks like, sadly, another diagnosis of prostate cancer, and this time it's Michelle Obama. Oh, no, that's very sad. I'm very sorry to hear that. Michelle Obama's prostate, I'm still looking into it. I'm going to have to confirm that as we go forward.
I'm in therapy right now because I'm transitioning.
Ah, yes. See, that was the first clue. Now, sad to report more prostate cancer. Very, very sad. You know that when a mother with an unplanned pregnancy is deciding about the future for her unborn child, it can be overwhelming sometimes. She wants to make the right choice, of course, but society and a lot of those people around her telling her that her baby is not actually a human life. Preborn is a wonderful ministry dedicated to loving these pregnant mothers and their babies and empowering them with the choice of life. And it's an eternal moment. Now, Briella, a young pregnant mother, was ready to take an abortion pill and end her pregnancy, but the pill didn't come. She decided to go to a preborn clinic where she got a free ultrasound. And that was her eternal moment. Not only did she see her unborn baby waving at her and the gender of the child, she realized this was the baby boy that she had prayed for. She decided to have the child. When you support preborn, you're supporting life-affirming clinics nationwide with free ultrasounds to help empower the mother to choose life. And your tax-deductible donation of $28 a month is reaching eternity. See what I'm talking about, right? To get involved, very simple. All you have to do is dial pound 250 on your phone, and when prompted, say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, the keyword is baby, or you can go on Al Gore's amazing internet to preborn.com/plant. That is preborn.com/PLANTE. That's me. Isn't that great? Yeah, this is wonderful stuff. Jake Tapper has to be called out, and rightly so, by truth tellers, not the Washington Post, the New York Times, or certainly not CNN. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. I still have to get to the Department of Justice going after the city of Chicago for being racists because they're Democrats and everything they do is racist. That's coming up. Let's go to the telephones, Mike. Let's go to Tom calling from Gaithersburg, Maryland. Tom, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, Chris, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Welcome.
Just wanted to point out that Joe Biden's cognitive decline is only matched by the Democrats' cognitive dissonance. They seem to have gone from his brain is not a broke to, his brain is a broke.
Well, they're able to flip-flop on everything and anything any day of the week because the Washington Post and the New York Times will pretend that there was no flip-flop, right?
Exactly.
And CNN and Jake Tapper will act like nothing has changed here. Nothing to see. That's what information dominance is about. And they use it very corruptly and to very corrupt effect every day, Tom.
Absolutely. It's amazing how Jake was able to go from passionately arguing with I can't remember who it was I think it was Laura Trump, and now he's writing a book. So I guess money. Everything else walks, but money talks.
That is a fact. And we have posted that. We posted that on our social media, on all our various, the Twitter, X, and all that good stuff. So you can see the story and the video. Now, the propaganda apparatus of the Democratic Party is very well known, I would hope, at this point. And Rachel Maddow, for example, who is a psychopath and psychopathic liar, a propagandist for the Democrat Party, will say anything for the party. And NBC Fake News pays her $25 million a year to do one night a week. The reason for that is they don't want her to be hired away by another organization. They used to pay her $30 million a year for 5 nights a week. Then it went down to $30 million for 1 night a week. And then they say, hey, Kim, we're going to, just cut your pay a little bit by $5 million. We'll still pay you $25 million, but for 1 night a week. Jon Stewart, who was never really very funny and always had 25 comedy writers for a 22-minute TV show. Jon Stewart being paid $25 to $30 million a year because the Democrat Party's propaganda apparatus must be well funded by corporate America and by the corporate titans and the centibillionaires, and their propaganda apparatus knows no bounds. Now, Jon Stewart, I think, is down to $20 or $25 million a year for his 1 night a week. He's down to, it's the Rachel Maddow thing. I don't think they're dating, but they've got a lot in common. And It's just amazing. And he's not naturally particularly funny. He reads other people's copy in a teleprompter and makes funny faces with his lips. And that's about it. Last night he was doing his one night a week for $20 million a year. And he noticed that Jake Tapper is selling a book where he's like, hey, I'm going to tell the truth about Joe Biden that I've been lying about for the last 5 years. And even Jon Stewart shamed into recognizing the glaringly obvious.
Forgetting about the fact how weird it is that the news is selling you a book about news they should have told you was news a year ago for free. It's just fun.
Woo! We got people telling them all to clap, and they're a bunch of SEALs, so they all clap like the dimwits that they are. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, that's right. The news media should have told us all this for free over the course of the last 5 years, and certainly during the presidential campaign. And they kept secrets about Joe Biden's intellectual decline, his mental decline, the onset of whatever he's experiencing now. And it was obvious to everyone, and I pointed it out here, and I pointed out the news media lying about it. And now Jake Tapper wants to make millions, and he's even being by saying, hey, look what I just discovered. Things that Chris Plant knew 5 years ago. Isn't that amazing? And I share it for free, don't I? And not for $20 million. There are no conservatives that are getting these kinds of paychecks from corporate media outlets. NBC has no Chris Plant that's being paid millions like Rachel Maddow. The Comedy Central has no Chris Plant that is being paid millions to be Jon Stewart, and then you got to add 20 writers, comedy writers, and so on, and do all that. The Democrat Party has seized control like an invading army of the United States of America. Aren't they amazing? And they're like, there's the stories out there today are that the Democrats are raising millions and millions and millions because they want to get their own Democrat version of Joe Rogan, famous podcaster, incredibly successful and great podcaster. They want their own Joe Rogan. And Michael Piercy and I were talking about this today. They had their own Joe Rogan. You remember their own Joe Rogan, the Democrats' Joe Rogan? That was Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan was a Democrat Party guy, and then he shook his head real hard one day and came to his senses, and now he's not anymore.
They're scrambling to try to create their own version of this show.
Right.
This is one thing that keeps coming up, like we need our own Joe Rogan.
Right.
But they had me.
Well, number one, they had you. Number one, they had you. They had you and they drove you away.
Oh, I didn't even know you had that soundbite. That's a great soundbite. That's fun. That's Joe Rogan being, hey, the Democrats want Joe Rogan. And they're like, yeah, well, they had me. And then they drove me. They drove free speech into the ground, and they violently attacked police and blamed the police, and they burned cities and blamed the police and blamed the Republicans. And speaking of the Democrats, there's something I want to share with you, and that is something I wasn't aware of until recently. But white people, I'm pretty much a white person. I mean, my father's family is Basque, right? You know, from the Pyrenees Mountains and all that. But I just want to share with you today that white people are the most generous people on the planet. Did you know that white people are the most generous people on the planet? You aware of that? This is true, and I looked into it. And I discovered that white people are the most generous people on the planet. Very generous. We are very generous people.
Just say thank you, please.
And now that everybody knows that white people are the most generous people on the planet, I think it's time everybody else start giving back to us white people. It's time for reparations of some kind, don't you think? The white people, most generous people on the planet. That's true. And I've got a little more on that coming up, too. And it has to do with Chicago, Illinois, where the Justice Department is now investigating Mayor Brandon Johnson. Let's go, Brandon. And, it could go back to Jeffrey Toobin and Anthony Weiner, too, with the Johnson. But, well, we'll just go with let's go, Brandon. Justice Department investigating Chicago Mayor, Democrat, Brandon Johnson for alleged racially motivated hiring. And that's illegal because it's racist. But Democrats are happily racist. They're all They're not happy warriors. They're angry warriors, and they're all racist. The U.S. Department of Justice began an investigation into Mayor Brandon Johnson on Monday, that's yesterday, over allegations of race-based discrimination, citing his recent remarks at a Woodlawn church in which he emphasized how many black people he's hired in his administration. And he's hired a lot of black people in his administration, and he's very proud, and he brags about it because he goes around saying, well, look at all the people I've hired and how many of them are black. And he pointed out that he's just hiring them based on race because he's a racist. He's a black man. I think I failed to mention that he's a black man, right? But he is a racist because he's a Democrat, the party of the Confederate States of America and the KKK and Jim Crow and standing in schoolhouse doors. And everything he does is race-based, as is the case with pretty much every Democrat in America. Now, the DOJ launches probe. They love a good probe, don't they? Into Chicago's hiring practices after Mayor Johnson's comments. And he goes out bragging about it, these comments of his about hiring people because they're black and how many black people he has. So now the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division announced an investigation in a letter Monday citing potential violations of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits employment discrimination based on race. Democrats live to discriminate based on race, certainly in hiring practices. That's what DEI is all about, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's what they've got other abbreviations, too, for their race-based everything. The decision to investigate stems from remarks Johnson made at the Apostolic Church of God in Woodlawn, where he highlighted the number of black leaders he has appointed to senior roles in his administration. In his speech, the mayor listed key officials, pointing out their race and titles, including deputy mayors, the budget director, the city's chief operations officer. And he said he was laying out these positions to ensure that our people get a chance to grow their business. What's their business? Government corruption? According to the DOJ, just see the Biden family for that. Department of Justice said it had reasonable cause to believe a pattern of practice of discrimination may be occurring. No kidding. The investigation will look into whether similar decisions are being made at other levels of city government. Now, the letter from the Department of Justice to the city makes it clear it has not drawn any conclusions, just going to look into it. And, maybe they're angry that white people are the most generous people on the planet. Maybe that's the problem they've got here. But wait a minute. You're saying Mayor Johnson disagrees with that? He doesn't think that white people are... I think it would clearly be racist to say that white people are the most generous people on the planet. Would that be a racist thing to say? But if you're a Democrat, and if you're the elected mayor of the city of Chicago, Illinois, as long as you're a Democrat, you can say this.
Some detractors that will push back on me and say, the only thing that the mayor talks about is the hiring of black people. No, what I'm saying is when you hire our people, we always look out for everybody else. We are the most generous people on the planet.
We always look out for everybody else. See, that's the book on black people. Always has been, I think. Black people always look out for everybody else. And they are the most generous people on the planet. That's not racist. You know why it's not racist? Because he's black, which is racist, right? See, but that's the Democrat Party in a nutshell. They're clearly out of their mind. The big lie, the lie so big that no one would dare to not believe it. Oh, also, did you see this story, thanks to Democrats? Man caught in Charlotte after deaths of pregnant woman, unborn child in Rock Hill stabbing. A Rock Hill stabbing. It's a stabbing in Rock Hill. A man accused of stabbing a pregnant woman to death Friday night in Rock Hill is being held on Hang on. An Immigration and Customs Enforcement hold in Mecklenburg County Jail concerning charges for both the woman and her unborn child that he murdered, allegedly, after he was caught in Charlotte, according to police and jail records. The pregnant victim, identified by the York County coroners as Leonore Alpazar, 37 years old, of Rock Hill, died in Piedmont Medical Center after she was stabbed to death. And now the police in Mecklenburg County, not a border county, not a border state, arrested an illegal alien who's being held by Immigration Customs Enforcement, or at least they've got a hold on him, and hopefully they'll cooperate. But you know how the Democrats are when it comes to cooperating with these with the police. They cooperate with the murderers, especially if they're illegal aliens. They love illegal alien murderers. The Democratic Party is the party of mayhem and murder and stabbing to death of pregnant women, and they won't cooperate with anybody. You know, not law enforcement. Aren't they amazing? All right, and the big lie. Let's go to, let's see, on the President Trump, on the diagnosis, Joe Biden, and now, sadly, Michelle Obama with prostate cancer. Very, very sad. On CNN, they've got a fake journalist, a Democrat by the name of Caitlin Collins, asking President Trump about the diagnosis of stage 4 advanced Gleason scale 9 out of 10 prostate cancer, metastasized to the bones, takes years for that to happen. Caitlin Collins to President Trump.
Do you want to respond to President Biden being diagnosed with cancer? Are you going to call your predecessor?
I think it's very sad, actually. I'm surprised that it wasn't, the public wasn't notified a long time ago, because to get to stage 9, that's a long time.
Get to stage 9 on the Gleason scale. It takes a long time. President Trump, gracious and kind. And he points out some facts that the news media are happy. Oh, we've been deceived again, the White House press corps, and they're fine with that because it's a Democrat Party gang of bootlicks.
It takes a long time to get to that situation. Now, I think, to get to a stage 9, I think that if you take a look, it's the same doctor that said that Joe was cognitively fine. There was nothing wrong with him. Well, he said, if it's the same doctor, he said there was nothing wrong there, and that's being proven to be a sad situation.
To be false, to be untrue, to be a lie, and the news media, they're fine with all of that. And President Trump can point it out. We all know it. And we are the Soviet Union. The Democrat Party is Sovietizing the United States of America by the way of information dominance and dominance on campuses, taking over grammar schools where they have transgender courses for kindergarten. The Democrat Party, not well. Hey, if you've had enough of the big wireless company runaround, it is time to switch to Consumer Cellular. I got my beautiful phone from Consumer Cellular the other day. It's amazing, wonderful camera like nobody's business, just great, and connectivity everywhere. You're going to get the same fast, reliable, nationwide coverage that big wireless gives you without the big wireless runaround and the big wireless prices. Honestly, all the stuff that they do, they force you into an unlimited plan that you don't need, and it costs a lot more money. You don't need to pay that money. Consumer Cellular isn't a prepaid option. You get to pick a plan, and you know exactly what your bill is going to be at the end of every month. It's so easy to switch to. All you have to do, and this is great, you call, you speak to an actual human being, not a computer, based right here in the United States, not on Mars, and they make switching your plan very fast and very easy. And it's going to save you money, too. Now you can get your second month free with my special promo code CHRIS. Just my first name, Chris, C-H-R-I-S. Taxes and third-party fees will apply. So check out consumercellular.com/Chris. consumercellular.com/Chris, or give them a call the old-fashioned way at 800-760-0702 and talk to a real person right here in the United States. Isn't that great? Yeah, President Trump very gracious. The news media is still engaged in the cover-up. The cover-up is ongoing. They're still going to attack anybody that tells the truth about the cover-up. Just ask Caitlin Collins.
A doctor was involved in each case. Maybe it was the same doctor, and somebody is not telling the facts. That's a big problem.
Yeah, the Democrat Party, their propaganda apparatus, the lie must be so big that no one would dare not believe it. They are a gurgle, as the Reverend Al Charlatan would say. Jon Stewart, $30 million a year, 25 million. Rachel Maddow, $25 million a year, down from $30 million a year, but she's only doing one night a week. The left-wing propaganda apparatus at the major networks, the major corporations. The New York Times jumped in today. Democrats throw money at a problem, I love their colons. Countering GOP clout online. At private gatherings, strategists and donors are swapping ideas, and of course, monkeypox, to help the party capture the digital mojo that helped President Trump win. Yes, there's a price tag. That's the New York Times headline and subheadline. And here's the thing. Democrat mega donors are debating plans to spend tens of millions of dollars on a range of influencer plans to, quote, find the liberal Rogan, end quote. That's Joe Rogan. They want to find the liberal Rogan. I just played the soundbite of Joe Rogan saying, I was the liberal Rogan. And they drove me away because they're such lunatics. We've got, listen to this, we've got pitch decks. They have pitch decks, investor meetings, and more internal documents. One Democrat has a spreadsheet of 26 different proposals. The Democrats have pulled together their billionaires and said, listen, we have no ideas. Our brains are no good. We're anti-American. We're anti-enlightenment. We're anti-freedom and liberty. But if you guys will give us billions of dollars, we'll take tens of millions and we'll give them to somebody to try to be the new Joe Rogan, but a left-wing lunatic. The Democrat propaganda machine.
You've got to help us. We've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas.